Howdy, I'm Andy Lee. My wife and I run the YouTube channel Family History Fanatics. If you haven't seen it, then go on YouTube and check it out. Now, I would have loved to have been in person with all of you. I've been at RootsTech the last 5 years. Unfortunately, because of COVID, we are having a virtual conference, and so I'm actually going to be able to reach thousands of more people than I normally would because of that. So thank you for watching, and I hope that you're going to enjoy this presentation. Now, today I am going to be doing the first of 3 presentations about bringing your society into the 21st century. Many of you probably belong to a local genealogy society. I belong to one, and I've helped out with one as in various leadership roles in that. And there's a lot of things that these societies are facing as far as problems. First, one of the issues that we always had was trying to get people to run for offices. And it's not just the president or vice president offices, it's anything, like even just running the newsletter or helping out with other things. There wasn't always all the volunteers that we wanted to be able to do this. Another issue that many societies face is low attendance. Well, that leads to the problem of the lack of leadership if you don't have that many people to choose from. Now, related to that as well is limited resources. Now, I think every genealogical society probably can say that they have limited resources. Mainly, they're funded by dues paid by members, which may be, $25 to $50 a year. And when you think about the different things that societies are doing as far as printing newsletters, maintaining, updating their website, a lot of these funds go towards those basic activities. And so when it comes to additional activities that you may want to do, there's just not the funds for that. No new blood. One thing is that many societies don't have a lot of young people that have been joining them in the last decade or two. And this doesn't bode well for the future because there's not going to be people to pass on the society and what they have done, their purpose there. So that can be a real problem. Another thing is just passing on information. As people maybe move or pass away, they might be taking some of that information with them. For instance, you might have somebody who has been running your website for 10 years and suddenly they pass away, and now where are the passwords to that website? What were they using to run the website? All these questions that the society has, and we've dealt with that in different societies. And those issues all can be problems. And there's many others, and I'm sure your own society probably has some unique set of problems that they have to deal with as well. Well, my goal in this set of talks today is to show how you can use technology to help solve some of these problems. Now, when I say solve, I really mean to tackle, to apply this technology to the problems. It's not going to alleviate those problems completely. But what it can do, and really the most important thing, is it can reduce the magnitude that some of these problems have. For instance, just passing on information. If you have a standard set of place on the web where actually that information is kept, then when new officers are elected, passing that information on is easy. I know when I was an officer in the local club that I was a part of, they still kept everything in big old binders. And so when I became treasurer, I was passed, half a dozen of these binders from all these past years. And that's all the information I had, which is, a lot of great information, but it wasn't the optimal way to keep that information. So technology can help us. And that's what I want to get across, is some of these ways that technology can be used. The nice thing is most of these solutions don't cost a lot of money, which, if money resources are a problem in society, there are technology solutions that aren't going to cost a lot of money. So I'm going to be talking in 3 different lectures about communication for this first one. Second one's going to be about administration. And the third one is going to be deliverables. And these are, sounds a little bit like business terms. And that's, I think, one of the things that we all need to do with our societies is think of it as a business. In many cases, they're organized as a business. And so we need to treat them as such. So let's get on with the first set of tools that we can use for communication. Think about all the ways that your society may be communicating with the members. Now, before 2000, we were really limited as far as how we communicated. We could make telephone calls. We probably met in person. And, probably one of the biggest things, particularly for members that are spread out over a wider geographic area, is we sent out a newsletter. We wrote and sent out a newsletter. And these were ways that we communicated information with our society members. Well, when you think about since 2000, all the different ways that we have to communicate, it is actually pretty enormous now. We have email, we have texting, we have blogs, we have websites, we have social media. Plus, we can still do telephone calls, we can do in-person meetings, we can do newsletters. All of those things are now at our disposal for sending out information. So let me show you some of the things that your society can do in order to bring it into the 21st century. The first thing is an email address. Now, you'd actually be surprised, but there are still several genealogical societies out there that don't have an email address for your society. If your society is one of them, hopefully by the end of today, you'll get with your officers and you'll get that changed, because there's a free option out there. Gmail. We've all used it. There's many others as well. So here is from the South Plains Genealogical Society, which is located in Lubbock, Texas. And you can see right on their contact page, on their email, they have spgsnews@gmail.com. And that's giving out general inquiry for anybody to email them. Your society can set something up like this in about 5 minutes. And again, it's free. And now this email can be passed on to the next officers. You don't have to be using your personal email for it. So that's the first thing, is we can get a free email in order to start this communication with our members through email. Now, if you have the funds in your budget, and we're not talking about a lot of funds, we're talking about, a few dozen, maybe $100, then what you can do is you can actually buy a domain name. And here you can see on this society's email, I forgot EFGS, East Texas Genealogical Society. Each one of their officers has a specific email address. President at ETGS, First VP at ETGS. And again, the nice thing about this is that these emails can be set up. You can actually forward these emails to your personal email. But as officers change, as people go into different positions, you don't have to update what the email address is on your website or what people know. So whenever I want to email the president of the East Texas Genealogical Society, I can just go to president@etgs.org. And it doesn't matter what year it is, it doesn't matter who the president is, that email is going to be going to that president. So there's a free option, like I said, where you can sign up with an account like Gmail, or there's a paid option where you can actually buy the domain name and set up individual emails for different people in your organization. Both work, and it provides a more uniform way of communicating with your society. Now, the next thing with email is your society probably sends out a lot of email to your mailing list, to your members. You might have 20 or 30, or if you're a larger society, you might have 100 or 200 or more people that are part of your society. Now, if you are sending out an email, you can copy all the email addresses and do a CC or preferably a BCC, which is a blind carbon copy, to all the people. But that can take time. You're having to maintain a email list. You're always copying and pasting this list, and it might not get updated. Well, if you use Gmail, there is an add-on that you can use called Mail Merge. The nice thing about Mail Merge is you're allowed to send out basically a mass email to hundreds of people, maybe even thousands of people, except instead of the email going to everybody at one time, the email goes out individually. So now with Mail Merge, what you can do is you can set it up so that it's going to pull the first name of the person, email address of them. That way it is addressed to the person. So, Sam, hello, we've got a meeting coming up on next Thursday, as opposed to, everybody, we have a meeting coming up on next Thursday. And you can personalize this as much as you want based on standard form information. So if you're talking about renewing registrations, you have registration dates for these people, you can automatically pull that registration date rather than having to look it up and see, well, what date did they need to re-register or anything like that. So Mail Merge is a really powerful tool that businesses all over the world use to send out mass emails to their mailing list. If you've ever gotten an email that, is addressed to you, and it maybe even has some specific information in the body of it that is about you, and there's no way that that company is having somebody sit down and type individual emails to all these people, you've received something through a Mail Merge. And it is a very effective way to communicate with people. So once you have your society's email set up, the next step then is to be able to minimize the amount of time you have to spend emailing to people. And Mail Merge is an excellent way to do that. Now, I've already pointed out a couple of websites when I was talking about the email address. But here is a website for the Chaparral Genealogical Society and Library. Now, if you don't have a website, your society needs to get one. And in particular, if you were using the old RootsWeb, I think it was RootsWeb, back in the 90s, RootsWeb was started up, and it was a great place for people to post information and societies to start a site, to add some contact information. It was since bought up by Ancestry, and it has not been updated or maintained very well. A couple of years ago, there was an outage on RootsWeb where for a significant amount of time, nobody could access RootsWeb. And it's a website that really has, because it hasn't been updated, has gone the way of the dinosaurs. If your society is still using a RootsWeb website, I would highly encourage you to get off that website. Now, there are a lot of different options for designing and putting together a basic website. You might have seen commercials for Wix or for Squarespace. There's others like Wild Apricot that have all sorts of functionality built into them to help your website or help your society create a website with the information that you need. And you can have contact information on there. You can put a calendar as far as when your events are. It's great for putting data that of past events or pictures or anything that you want on your website. And the idea here is to be able to get a presence that people can be drawn to, that they can see what your society is involved with, as well as how to contact you so that you can join. You can put links in there to your Facebook page, to other different things. And that brings up the next part, which is social media. And you can start to see as I'm talking about some of these things that really these all work together in concert to create your society's online presence. So for instance, here is the Facebook group for the Ohio chapter of the Palatines to America, the German Genealogical Society. There's a specific group that you can join that group. That's what they talk about. It might be that you have a fairly static web page, and a lot of the stuff that your organization does is on a Facebook group. That's perfectly fine. Or it might be the other way around, where your Facebook group is not very active, but it's there for basic information that you repost different stuff to. Now, besides Facebook groups, there is Twitter. Twitter is a great way for the members that are on Twitter to disseminate some information. So this is from the Pima County Genealogical Society. They run an excellent Twitter feed where they are posting their upcoming events. They talk about past events. They have different bits of information and stuff that goes on there. And all of these things are designed to communicate with their members. So think about this for your organization right now. Does your organization have an email address? If it does, great. Are you considering upgrading to having your own domain name for a website? Well, you might want to change your email addresses up to include that as well. The websites that you can make are much easier. You don't necessarily need to know how to code. You just need to know how to drag and drop. Make it look the way you want it to look. And then, does your society have a Facebook group? What would you put on that Facebook group? Think about this. It might be that, instead of having just a president, vice president, and secretary and treasurer, maybe you need somebody who is in charge of social media. Maybe that's a new role that, hey, we're going to have a vice president in charge of social media, or we're just going to have the social media chairman or something like that. So depending on the size of your society, this might be a role that you have for this. And this is a place where you can start to bring some of the younger people in. Maybe you don't know how to use Twitter. Maybe you don't know how to create a website with some of these sites. Finding some younger people that have an interest in genealogy, but also have a knowledge of some of these tools can really up your society's game. Now, like I said, this is just the first of a 3-part series about bringing your society into the 21st century. So if you have any more questions, then you can email me, info@familyhistoryfanatics.com, or you can also check out our YouTube channel, Family History Fanatics on YouTube. And we have some different videos on how some of these tools can be used as well. But be thinking what communication ways your society uses right now. And think about, okay, what can we do to improve that communication, but not add more time to one of the officers' job as part of that. The goal with implementing these technologies is to alleviate some of these problems, minimize the magnitude of them. So I hope you enjoyed this first part, and be looking out for the second and the third part about bringing your society into the 21st century.